Hello, friends. My name is Vivian Ward, and on behalf of Crafted for Action, I'd like to welcome you to our last virtual session of the day at 3:30 Eastern Time. It is Crafting Life's Perfect Brew. Prioritize, invest, delegate, and establish boundaries for a balanced existence. And if you have questions during this time, be interactive. You can put it in the chat, and our panel will be happy to answer any questions and leave time at the end of their presentation. So we will get started. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Vivian. Thank you, everyone. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome. Uh, Thank you again for Credit for Action, and Jen Price, and everyone that has made this possible again for another triumphant year. And let's get started. Let's get into this. Um, Crafting Life's Perfect Brew. And I have an illustrious person beside me, a lovely panelist with me. It's Ashley Randolph. Please introduce yourself and tell us the amazing things that you do.
Yeah. Hi everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, evening, wherever you are. My name is Ashley Randolph, and this is my, I think, third time participating in Crafted for Action. So again, thank you, Jen, for putting this amazing thing together. It's a wonderful birthday gift, not only to yourself, but all of us in the community. So thank you. I love craft beer and do all that I can to make it a better place for all. That includes being co-founder of Lifting Lucy, which is a 501c3 that supports Black, Indigenous, and all women of color in the craft beer industry events to attend educational opportunities and industry events. I also proudly serve as the vice president of Pink Boots Society International, which we have our conference coming up next week. Super excited about that. And I also serve on the advisory board of the National Black Brewers Association and some other things, but that's not important right now.
Well, that's amazing accomplishments. So for me, I'm Angie Thomas. I am the CEO and moderator of Being Black and Craft, where we don't apologize for recognizing our influence on craft beer. I had to put my tagline in there. I'm also a part of the amazing dynamic team of Lifting Lucy. I am the social media curator. I am also part of the board for Pink Boots International as a communications director and co-chair of the DEIJ committee for Pink Boots as well. So let's get into it. The introduction. So, in pursuit of a balanced life, four fundamentals principles stand out: prioritization, scheduling, practicing self-care, and learning to delegate and establish boundaries. By embracing these principles, we can navigate the complexities of modern life and resilience while enduring balance between professional aspirations and personal fulfillment, which that is enough in itself, trying to make sure that you have that balance. And I think this picture really depicts how we try to balance these different things. Um, why so Ashley, why do you think that some of those principles are important?
You know, that's a really good question. Without oversharing, I think for me, especially at this stage in my life, being able to incorporate some of those things is really important to make sure that I'm able to take care of myself, that I'm not overexerting myself, and especially prioritizing. That's a huge thing for me.
Mhm.
I want to be in go gadget mode all the time. I want to do all the things. I have a huge muscle that I'm developing when it comes to delegation right now and allowing people to shine and knowing that it's going to be okay. And even if it's not the way that I want it to be, it's better to let somebody else handle that and for me to focus on the things that are crucial for me to have my hands in as opposed to my hands in everything. But it's a struggle. You know how it is when you're an only child and you
Yes.
know, it's hard.
It is hard, and especially when you have a goal or an aspiration or a dream that you're wanting to pursue, and it's your goal, and there are people that are willing to help you, but
Yeah,
it's your thing that you want to make sure that I know how to handle this. And I think that's also a Virgo trait, because we're really, like, we're perfectionists. We want things to be just so. So it's hard to have that kind of balance between doing your personal life as well as those business aspects.
for sure. And especially for us, we're in all of the organizations. There's so much overlap. And I lovingly, refer to these organizations as my children. And I need to make sure that all my children feel like they're supported from me. And the only way I can do that is by prioritizing, delegating, and the things that we're going to talk about today.
Yes. So, so we're going to think of this in such a way as we are um, balancing our lives, our personal lives, our professional lives, as far as the same way that we create a beer, right? We're, so getting that balance, because you can jack up a beer real quick if you're not
Yep.
taking those taking those
I
right
I
steps.
hate an overly hoppy beer. And when I think about balance, that's it. And sometimes, if those IBUs are a little too high, that hop's too aggressive, it's not an enjoyable experience. So I think that's a
Mhm.
tremendous analogy, that we all can relate to when you have a beer that's too hoppy, or, smoothie beers are a huge thing on the West Coast right now. And sometimes that mouthfeel is completely off and I don't want it. And so, yeah, great analogy.
Yeah. So some key elements: prioritize and schedule, practice self-care, delegation, setting and enforcing boundaries. Those are some key elements that we're going to go through. Let's see here. So first off, prioritize and schedule. Efficiently manage your time by identifying crucial tasks in both your professional and personal life. So one thing we were talking about was the Eisenhower matrix, and I was looking at it because I was like, it sounds good, but I was like, what it actually is? I had to really, really check it out.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's urgent, what's not urgent, what's important, what's not important, and putting it in those different pockets.
Yeah.
Just really that simplistically. Have you ever used that?
Not formally, not formally, but my comparison to this is ranking things, right? And if something is a first world problem, that means it's not urgent. That can wait till later. If something is like critical mass, I need to take care of it right there. So again, that prioritizing, and that's a skill set that I've developed over the years. And everything is not a fire. Sometimes things are just a little smolder, and you can get to it later.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes into the second one, where it's saying to set clear goals and breaking them down. I'm a big component of lists, and
We
making
talked
sure
about
that,
this yesterday. I'm trying to
yes,
get you to the point of using the list on your phone, and you can tick it off.
I need I am of the still of the caliber of having a piece of paper, something tangible in my hand to cross off.
Yeah.
So yeah, but making the list, period, that's what's really important. Instead of trying to keep it all in your head, you're gonna miss something. You're definitely gonna miss something. So making it more manageable in small bits, um, and that list isn't for the day. It could be for the month, things that you need to check off. Don't overexert yourself with trying to do it all in one fell swoop. What else would you think about making clear goals?
Um. Wow. I think one of the things about goals for me is very rarely am I working on one goal at a time. A lot of times they're interconnected, and so sometimes if there are tasks that can kill two birds with one stone, that's been a huge time saver. I thrive off of being efficient. And so really trying to see how, if I've mapped everything out and I see that there are tasks that are similar or I can knock them out at the same time, that's been a really huge thing for me. Especially now, in my day job, I'm running 3 programs. And so
Mm.
certain things like our communication plans template, it kind of follows the same cadence for the 3 different populations that we serve in the 3 different programs. And so having that, and again, cadence, that's a huge thing for me. I know I'm going off on a tangent for a little bit, but with my goal, if my overarching goal is to make sure that I have certain engagement numbers, or that I get invites out at a certain time, or I make sure people are responding to surveys, having that communications plan, I can kind of duplicate it, and then I'm not reinventing the wheel.
Okay. Now, and that's really great, and it made me also think about something that we use in our organization, Spaces, which
Yeah.
you told me about Spaces. Um, you want to share how you use it in with Pink Boots, or how you use it at your regular job?
Yeah, absolutely. So I use Google Spaces everywhere that I can. I am very much a regular congregant of the church of that could have been a damn email.
Hmm.
Nothing worse than trying to have to schedule a meeting to have a lot of back and forth conversation that can happen in Google Spaces or even Slack. So if you have Gmail, you already have access to this tool, and it allows you to have sub chats. So if you're working on a particular project, you can do it across departments. At my day job, it's been really useful for getting our newsletter together. And that's something that I shared with you, Angie, when we were putting together our Pink Boots newsletter. I
Hmm.
don't want to have to keep going back and forth and going to this person's office and that person's office. We can assign tasks with deadlines. I can upload, documents, and then we can have that ongoing conversation via the chat, as opposed to finding time that works with everyone. And it's really great for maximizing efficiency. I like to add a little bit of levity with memes and things like that. So if I've got an urgent ask, or, I know somebody's having kind of a rough day, I can also pop in there, give them a little laugh and then come back and say, but no, seriously, I need this done by tomorrow. And it's a
Hmm.
great way of keeping not only myself accountable. So if I say that I'm going to do something, I'll add that task with that deadline, but also for the other people in my team, in my department that I'm working with. Everybody has eyes on everything. There's really an opportunity to mitigate confusion or things falling through the crack. And again, with me managing 3 different programs at the same time, it's essential for me to be organized, to know who's doing what, when, and at what stage of completion it's at. And Spaces is a great way to do that.
Hmm. That was like the wonderful plug and play that I ever witnessed, creating the newsletter, where it basically just it creates itself,
Yeah.
and it just made it so much easier than sending out all these separate emails, um, and you're getting a response in real time, like
Yep.
truly real time. So if you haven't thought of utilizing those tools, that I can't say anything more than use that and get that. So one of the last things in prioritizing and scheduling is limiting distractions and time wasters. And one thing that I can attest to that I do, social media. It is a big time waster for me. It's like when I have my phone, this is my alarm clock, and it shouldn't be. I'm gonna be real transparent. It shouldn't be my alarm clock, but when I get maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, a little buzz or something like that, I'm looking at something, or I really should be in bed, and that's wasting my time where I could be doing something, and making those deadlines that were like this end up being like this because I wasted my time. What do you think about distractions? What kind of distractions have you had that you've tried to get away from?
I'm going to get in trouble for saying this. My biggest distraction is being in the office and other people. And so when
Mhm.
I go into the office and I sit down at my desk, the first thing I do is put my headphones on. And that is
Mm.
a visual signal to most people that I am focused, I'm in my zone. Send me a message in Spaces, because being in that setting, you make your tea, you make your coffee, you start having a conversation, and the next thing you know, you've lost 30 minutes. And so I'm a huge proponent of working at home for me, because I can control my environment and I can control those distractions. Whereas for a lot of people, having that freedom would increase those distractions. So I think it's part personality, part behavior. The social media thing, that's not so much of a distraction for me until late at night, as you know, when I'm up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm just scrolling until I get tired. But and I think also setting boundaries, which I know we're going to talk about a little bit later. But a big thing for me is, again, I have retired parents and retired godparents. please don't call me at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm at work right now. And I know you just want to call to see how I'm doing, but I'm working right now. And for me to mentally shift from being productive at work or being productive on pink food stuff or whatever, to talk about whatever support you need with your cell phone or whatever, that can wait until after 5 p.m. I had that conversation with my godmother yesterday, love her to death. But I was like, remember, I called you on my lunch break today because I'm not available this evening. I'm traveling.
I think only because my mother worked for the phone company like I do, she knows that, she didn't take phone calls from me as a child, so vice versa. And I think that's probably the only thing. Other than that, it it really is an emergency. And she's like, "Okay, are you busy? Are you on break?" Other than that, she would call me nonstop. I know she would. I know she would.
It's
Um,
just because they love us.
I guess. So, um, so I think what's essential when you can get those kind of thoughts as far as like trying to use if you're a social media person, there is something that you can use on your phone that will clock how long you are doing your social media. And I think this is a tool that they use for kids to limit their time. You may want to try, if you feel like this is a crutch for you, you may want to use that too. But in your personal life, setting some boundaries to around some leisure activities to ensure that that doesn't encroach on your time. So family time is family time, work time is work time, because that can really kind of put that off balance of the boundaries that you're trying to create, to separate those different things so you can have your family time and enjoy your family and they can enjoy you. So
For sure. At my previous job, I found myself, it was very emotionally taxing. And I found myself carrying a lot of work related energy into my real life. And so when I came to the job that I'm at now, I made a conscious decision that like work is work. And while I'm working, you're going to get 110%. But when work is done, it's done. I don't know. Y'all don't like, no, we're not doing this. And it's really challenging, especially when you care about what you're doing. But I also think it's a slippery slope. And unfortunately, in corporate America and probably a few other first world countries, there's this expectation that your job is everything. And it's very much a means to an end. And I'm not advocating for people not to do your job and not to do it well, but don't make it your everything, because I hate to be morbid. If you drop dead at your desk, you will be replaced in a week. They might send flowers. They might,
might, might.
but you will be replaced in a week. And very few of us have jobs that are, life or death, or securing national security, or performing open heart surgery on a newborn. Very few of us have those kind of jobs. So it can wait. It can wait until the time that you are paid to tend to those things.
I think it's a myth, as far as like in the corporate world that I'm at, where they say we're family. You're
Mm-hmm.
not my family, because there's things that you have to do as my manager or as my peer that my family is not going to do, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have to, that is another boundary that they need to um, put back in, that this is not my family. I can, you're my coworker. I can exist with you, but I need to have that space, which is
Yeah.
real strange to me. But that's something that because people used to stay at their job so long, forever,
Yeah.
and I know that's not the thing. You young people, y'all stay at the job for a couple of months and then y'all at somewhere else. So
You know what? It's not just young people. I don't know. You probably watched this show. It's been almost 20 years since it's been on the air. Goodness. Rochelle from Everybody Hates Chris. And her tagline was, I don't have to take this. My man got 2 jobs. So some of us are fortunate enough where you have a partner that will support you. Some of us support ourselves and know that we will go out here and make it. But it's really
mhm.
not worth the headache, the stress, the impact on your physical, emotional well-being to overextend yourself. in a professional setting. And not only professional, I think both you and I have a history of, hardcore volunteerism, and we get a lot of joy out of being of service to the organizations that we're a part of, but also setting boundaries there too, because if you're like me and you're the person that always says yes and always has your hand raised, like, you are the go-to for everything, and that gets very tiring very quickly.
It starts to be burnout. So that leads me into self care, practicing self care. Nurture your well being by engaging in activities that rejuvenate your mind, body, and spirit. Prioritizing self care practices to sustain balance and burnout prevention. So, how have you been lately, or not too long ago, been incorporating some activities, and what kind of activities or have you been doing to kind of get that self-care for
Yeah.
physical in the physical body?
Yeah. So a couple of things, like for me, the physical and the emotional and mental, they're all intertwined. They all impact each other. And this time of year, I live in Las Vegas. It gets really disgustingly hot, but the beautiful side of that is that the pool is like almost like bath water. It's perfect. And so I usually try to go swimming at least 3 times a week. And for me, that's an hour that I can just completely shut my mind off, my emotions, whatever, and just have that internal dialogue, where I can just go, tune out, process things that I need to. And then a habit that I've had literally since the week that I moved in my house, almost, 12 years ago. At my house, we have self-care Sundays. And the most productive things that I do at my house on a Sunday is I take a bubble bath and I deep condition my hair and I watch Walking Dead if it's in season. And that's it. I'm not doing anything beyond that. And even that's a struggle for me because my physical body and my mind are so used to always being engaged and active and being productive that I have these internal dialogues of like, you really should be doing something productive with this time. But I really am trying to take on board fully that the most productive thing I can do for myself, especially being a Black woman in this country, is to rest. And rest is a revolutionary act. And Dr. J introduced this concept to us when we were, I want to say, in Nashville, the first Thrive.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's a hard thing because we have been socialized and conditioned that we need to produce, we need to produce. And if you stop and take time for yourself, you're being selfish. And there's a big distinction between being selfish and taking care of yourself so you can be of service to others. And that's still a journey that I'm on. I think most of us are on that journey, but we're getting closer to fully having that acceptance of that old cliche, you got to put your mask on before you can help anybody else.
Exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth because I was about to say that because that's an old adage for sure. Um, for me, it has always been walking, even though I keep on doing stuff to my feet. But one of the things that I really do enjoy doing is walking the dogs, taking them on an extensive walk because they need exercise as well. And that allows me to listen to a podcast, listen to books. I've listened to thousands of books, and I'm used to talking to myself because I like books that are stabby, a little gore, a little thriller. So I'm walking. I'm like, oh my God, what? So that really allows me to do like when I'm turn around, I've walked 4 miles. I hadn't realized it. So that's something that I really, really have enjoyed doing. Then, when we're talking about mindfulness and meditation, um, I'll say that for me, meditation is I rarely turn on my TV. I literally just bought a new TV. I hadn't had one in like at least 2 or 3 years in the living room. But I'll come home and just open the blinds and just look out the window, read a book, maybe put on some music. Of course, it's probably Prince, or it may be the White Stripes, depending on how I really want things to kind of be funky with me. And even my dogs like it because they don't really like noise. That's one thing. That Zen moment, I can
Yeah.
kind of feel that temperament with them, how I am. So,
Yeah.
what do you do for your meditation?
It really just depends on where I'm at. I don't know if you remember when Deepak Chopra and Oprah were doing like their meditation challenge, their 21-day meditation challenges. That came along at my life at a really like pivotal moment. That was right when I had got my thyroid cancer diagnosis, and processing all of that and trying to be still, let my body be still, let my mind be still. It's a hard task for me because my brain is always going. And so what I took away from those challenges was journaling. I'm not so much of a journaling person. I'm not a sit in silence person, but what I am is those micro moments of gratitude. And so it's just taking a moment. It can be something as simple as me literally stepping out of the shower and being like, I'm really thankful for hot water and soap, because I have been in situations where I don't have hot water because nobody's got hot water that day, or just really small things. Like right now I'm in DC visiting my play brother, who's a person that I met on a flight to Australia almost 20 years ago. And we talk to each other every day, right? And just taking a moment, especially when I'm in the thick of things and I'm stressed or I'm not feeling well, or especially if I'm upset, and just being like, this is a first world problem. Let's do an inventory of all of the things that you have that are wonderful blessings and gifts, and all this other bullshit. It's still going to be there after I have that moment, but let's just take a moment to focus on the good. So for me, that's my meditative or reflective practice.
And that's really great. I really like that. Just thinking about the little things that that we take for granted. One thing that I had planned on doing, I started, but I stopped. But I think this is really, really, really impactful. Taking little slips of paper and writing down what you were grateful for, or anything. I saw a beautiful cloud this day, and just taking and putting it in a jar. And by the end of the year, just taking those things out, taking out when you're needing a little boost, you can think of, remember something that happened that was positive for you that day. You
I
know,
love that.
yeah, my kid kissed me on the nose today. Something, just anything.
It's funny
So,
you mentioned that, kid, because when you started talking about that, I flashed back to being an elementary school teacher in a previous life, and just like the sense of wonderment and the shit that amuses kids and they get excited about. And it's like,
mhm,
gosh, if we could just tap into that and not take life so seriously and just be, like you said, it's simple things. It's nice weather out today.
mhm.
I got an extra order of fries when I picked up my order, or just really simple things. I think
Somebody made up my bed yesterday. Was
yes, yes.
so yeah. I
Or
think it's
how
great.
about when you find that beer that you've been tracking down forever, or somebody mails it to you completely out of the blue because they know
Just
you
the
love it?
blue. Yes. That gets me all teary-eyed. I cry with some of the simplest things, and that would bring me to tears because, for one, that you thought about me when I wasn't thinking about anything whatsoever. My life is going in a tizzy, and
Yeah,
somebody thought about me.
yeah,
And that always makes me think I'm giving back to the universe, because I probably have extended myself to somebody who in turn, they weren't thinking about anything, and I sent them something. So
yeah.
it's all circular. So we had this conversation about rest versus good sleep, and there is a difference.
Huge, huge.
Rest without just 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 taking a breath, just having like maybe even 15, it could be a 15 to 20-minute rest.
Before we hopped on here, what did I tell you? I said I'm gonna rest my eyes for 15 minutes. I'm not gonna
Be
sleep.
quiet.
I think I have been up for ooh over 24 hours at this point. I was tired.
Yes.
I was very tired. But sleep was not an option right now, but just that rest. And again, just to be still, just to give my mind and my body a break before I continued on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that can really, change things. If your mind isn't rested and you're having to make some decisions, it may alter the decision that you create for yourself.
Yeah.
But what do you feel? What would you define as good sleep hygiene?
I probably am the wrong person to ask this question because I do all of the things wrong. Like, I have a hard time sleeping if the TV is not on, but I've had a TV in my room since I was in kindergarten.
Hmm.
And especially with me living by myself, if the house is too quiet, I hear a bump and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's somebody in the house, right? But funnily enough, and you'll appreciate this because you're part of this story that I'm getting ready to tell. The best sleep that I've had lately was when I was at my parents' house the other weekend for Father's Day. And Tammy
Y'all,
Tammy Randolph keeps very, very high thread counts. Sheets on the bed in the guest room. It's dark, it's cool, it's not noisy, and it's just a warm, comfy, cozy environment. And I was sleeping hard, and y'all was looking for me, but my body hadn't had good rest that I needed it. So I think sleep hygiene is different for everybody. Some people sleep warm, some people sleep cold, some people sleep naked, some people sleep bundled up with socks on and a bonnet and everything. But I think it's just finding your sweet spot, for lack of a better phrase, and what it is that you need. And for me, being a lifelong person that has struggled with insomnia and not getting quality sleep, it's okay to go outside of yourself and get that support. And I think one of the things that you and I have talked about this year is incorporating magnesium into our daily routine to allow our mind to relax, our bodies to relax. And since I've been taking that, my sleep has gotten so much better.
yes, yes. I went to ask the professionals because I was having some insomnia, or it seemed like I was sleeping too much, like I was always asleep. And I was like, okay, you can go to the extreme too, but I'm thinking that the sweet spot is between 6 to 8 hours. Some people need even less than that. But if you feel like you are rejuvenated, then that is your sleep hygiene. So delegation. Ooh, okay. So
This is hard for a Virgo and a Leo, huh? It's hard for us.
yes, it's like, what? So identifying your limitations that will allow you to delegate tasks when necessary. Cultivating the ability to reassign and non-prioritize tasks will allow you to focus on what truly matters and create realistic expectations for yourself and those you are delegating to. It's a hard pill to swallow, to let it go, to let some of it go. Um, and not to cover.
Yeah,
I can look at what your, as far as like your professional, looking at what you have, your task, and seeing what can be done efficiently so it doesn't bombard the people that you're asking to do the task.
yeah,
Because if you ask me to do something just extremely hard, the next time you ask, I might say no. I might, give my boundaries, tell you no. But if it's something that things that you can let people do, um, that are not so giant in priority,
yeah,
they will get your goals done, but you
yeah.
have to be willing to let it go. What do you think?
I, just listening to you talk about it now, the word that popped up in my brain is expectations. And I
Mm,
think just across life in general, like setting realistic expectations is so important. And in this situation, setting expectations of how you expect whatever you're delegating to be done. How are you going to be notified that it's done? What timeline does it need to be done? And then the big thing for me is setting an expectation for me of that quality of work, right? And is it a situation where right now I need to get this person to get task A at least 90% of how I want it, and then I can go in and fluff the other 10%.
mhm.
And a person who shall not be named, but I know you know who they are, reminded me not too long ago that everybody is not me and not everybody works the way that I do. And so I have to adjust my expectations when I
Mhm.
do go to people and say, okay, here's the plan. Here's the pie. We've cut it all up. Here's your slice. And that when that slice comes back to the whole pie, it may look a little raggedy, but that's okay. We can fluff it up afterwards.
Right. You can put some whipped cream on it. It's still you can still eat it.
Yes.
Yeah. 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 So I think that kind of goes into, establishing that trust and empowering your team. If you establish a trust that, hey, I'm giving you this piece to handle, and I believe in you, that also is positive and powerful for your team to go ahead and get that full goal accomplished.
No, absolutely. And it's a tough thing. Contrary to popular belief, I don't like micromanaging. I don't like standing over somebody's shoulder, but I'm very much an over communicator. And I think you know this probably better than most. But again, it comes down to communication styles. And in order to establish that trust, I think it's really important to understand how best to communicate with each other so those lines remain open. Some people, all you have to say is make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And then they will go and make that peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Other people, you need to tell them what type of bread you want, what type of nut butter you're using. Specify, don't use grape jelly because that shit is disgusting. And that I want my sandwich cut on a diagonal. So if you have everything laid out, those people can take that ball and run with it, speaking. But I think there's a lot to be said. And for me, professionally, where I'm at right now, that's what I love the most is that they hired me because they knew what I was capable of doing before they had fully seen it. And for the most part, here's the end goal. How we get there is how we get there.
Mhm.
But just knowing that I have that trust that they know I'm going to deliver, it allows me not only to get done what I need to get done in a more timely and efficient manner, but because I'm doing those two things, I'm able to give more and not be exhausted.
I wonder if people are not used to being extensively communicated, given that extensive communication, and they assume that it's the hovering or micromanaging, because there's definitely a difference when you're trying to make sure that everything is clear, that
Mm-hmm.
the goal is clear, that you understand what your marching orders are or what the task is involved. And I think your tone also has something to, that will also make you feel like, oh, she's trying to ride me around like a brown bull, instead of, oh, she's just trying to make sure that we all are on the same page.
Yeah.
And I can see that different style from you compared to my corporate life, where it's just like, as soon as my manager sends me an email, she's at my desk. Did you get my email? Look, bitch, you sorry, flashback. I'm not sitting here waiting for your email, ma'am. I'm gonna do whatever you ask me to do, but give me
Yes.
a give me give
Let
me
me
a
give me
chance.
time to do it. Give me time
Give
to
me
do it.
a chance. So yes.
Never change, Angie. Never change.
I just had a flashback. Sorry. So, setting and enforcing boundaries, like my mouth. I'm gonna set. I'm setting a boundary.
Everybody
So,
here is drinking age. You're fine.
setting clear boundaries will allow you to safeguard your personal and professional resources, such as your money, time, emotions, and energy. So, I think you talked about, which I had never heard about, um, taking an audit of your pain points.
Mm-hmm.
Define pain points to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So the technical definition of a pain point, let me get that to you here, because it may be new for a few people in here. So technically, a pain point is a specific challenge, problem, or issue that employees or an organization encounters, and ultimately, it's going to cause frustration, inefficiency, dissatisfaction. Long story short, what's a pain in your ass right now? That's how I look at pain points. And so if something right now that is a pain in my ass is that I need to get a social media post out, and I'm Instagram phobic, I don't want to deal with it. It gives me anxiety. I'm worried about what music, whatever. If there's somebody like an intern in the office that's on social media all day, it's a better use of my resources to say, hey, here's the message that needs to be communicated. Here's the vibe. Take it and run with it. And so a pain point is really literally that. What is something that you can point to that is a pain in your ass? That's it.
Mm-hmm. And how to make that boundary to that pain point, whether it's going to be on the, like, I'm going to get rid of this, or I'm going to deal with it in another way, maybe segue to delegate it. So it's not a pain for me, but it's something that needs to be done, but I can delegate it to someone else.
Yeah.
If it's not too bad.
Yeah. Or
So
another example, sorry to cut you,
yeah.
a pain point that comes up a lot, both professionally and personally, and what I do in the beer space is some conversations are really just energy drains. And so literally starting that conversation and saying, you have the next 15 minutes of my undivided time. And when that 15 minutes is up, it's up. That's been a really useful tool for me.
And that makes me think about one of the things that I initially captured from you when we first met was uh, having capacity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have capacity for that at this time. I have capacity for maybe an hour, but telling people that you don't have the capacity to do it um, has been revolutionary for me as far as how I communicate to people, and being able to say it with finesse,
Yeah.
that like I ain't got it. I
Yeah.
ain't got the vibe for you. I'm
And,
at
and
capacity.
and that's a great segue to the next point here. Like, I think a lot of us, especially women, are socialized and conditioned to not say no, to always say yes, even when everything in your body is screaming, hell fucking no, get out of my face. People say,
Mm-hmm.
sure, I can do that. I'll make that work. And there's a way for you to say no. You No is a complete sentence, or you can say, I can't do that, but what I can do is this. And I think that's a muscle that a lot of us are still developing.
Yes. And that is something that will happen in time, and it doesn't have to happen till where you're completely burned out.
Yeah.
Start knowing where to say no, um, and letting it be definitive, have that definitive period at the end.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And you
And
don't have to
it
be
doesn't have to be
nasty
a
about
why.
it. And I think that's
Yeah.
what a lot of people operate from, this misconception that no is a negative thing. It's not, it's just information.
Mm-hmm. So we also want to do a regular audit and adjust boundaries. So of course, you know, this month has been kind of crazy for us because we're getting ready for the conference. So that life work balance has changed dramatically, especially when it starts getting closer. Started getting, oh, okay, I need to do this, I need to do
Yeah.
that. So if you start looking at that on a regular basis and seeing where you need to maybe make new boundaries, or maybe you're able to open a gate somewhere else, that can keep that balance there.
Yeah. And it's like everything else in life. It ebbs and flows and it adjusts. And sometimes you have more, sometimes you have less. Sometimes, you just need to take a break from things in general, and that's totally okay.
Yeah, so I know one thing that we were talking about was like at specific times when you're not available for work-related communications, to designate some time for, again, with that self-care.
Yeah.
So we have some final
We're
thoughts.
at the end already.
We are at the end. I mean, we are just scraping,
I felt
and
like we were just getting started.
we have gone through it. So this is a quote from Balanced Black Girl. And this is like a mantra, right?
Yeah, so what I wanted to share with everybody that's tuning in and will watch this later, these are just some affirmations that I think will be really helpful for you as you start your own individual practice of finding that balance in your life. And the first one is I prioritize my peace. I think that's a big thing that a lot of us sacrifice for whatever reason. Some of us say, well, let me suffer now or sacrifice now and then get this out of the way and then I'll have my peace. No, the closer I get to 40, the more I realize my peace is everything. And sometimes there's some uncomfortable conversations that are had to make sure that you have your peace. And again, you don't have to be malicious in pursuit of this, but your peace is everything. And then the second affirmation I'd like to share with you all is my greatest glow up is internal. Um, it's that old cliche of a lot of people that are pretty on the outside are really ugly on the inside. And I think especially being in Western society, so much is placed on the external and not so much on the internal. And so doing this personal work, making sure that you're good from the inside out is going to be your biggest success. And it will allow you to pursue other things. And then the last affirmation that I wanted to share was I honor my commitment to take care of myself. A lot of us got messaging. I'll just share a really quick anecdote. My grandma passed a little over 2 years ago, and I was the only immediate family member that spoke at her funeral. While I had COVID, thanks to CBC, Minneapolis, it was rough, but we made it through. And what I shared was, as much as I loved my grandmother, what I don't want to have as my legacy is how she lived her life of not really putting herself first and sacrificing her own well-being, her own time, her own peace for other people. And then Angie, I think you had a quote you were going to share with us.
So my quick quote is balance in life means adjusting your actions to stay aligned with your goals.
I have a question for you, Angie, because you didn't put a picture in there. What does that quote look like for you?
I just realized that I did not have a picture there. And my immediate brain says Edie Brickell, a smile on a dog. I don't know why, but just that balance of just having just happiness and just being serene. If you can find that place and trying to reach that goal of that serenity. So
That's not the Edie Brickell song I have stuck in my head now, but we'll talk about that when I see you Sunday. All right. Well, we are here. I don't know if we have any questions that have come through or not. If anything we've shared with you today resonates with you, if you want to have further conversations with us, you want to learn more about Lifting Lucy and our mission, if you are a Black, Indigenous, or other woman of color on your journey in craft beer, or if you support Black, Indigenous women of color on their journey in craft beer, please reach out to us. Lifting Lucy, we are a global movement. We are everywhere. There's good beer and women that want to make it better.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all so much. Did you have any last comments that you wanted to share before we wrap up? I see there's some contact information on there if you wanted to tell people where to find you or if the contact information is enough.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
That's it for, yeah.
For those of y'all that are in Atlanta, we are so sorry we did not make it down this year, but we are there in spirit. Y'all have fun for us.
Yes.
And again, happy early birthday, I believe.
Yes,
And
it's coming up.
yeah, thank you so much for creating these spaces for us to get together, share our experiences, continue to inspire each other, and cheers with my imaginary beer.
Thank you, friends, for joining this virtual session. Please take a moment and rate this panel using the link that can be found in the panel description or on the Watch Craft Beer Con page on the website. So thank you so much, Ashley and Angie, for sharing all of these fine tips, and we'll see you all next time. Have a good one.